Hey, hi, David here. This is an interview I did with Rebecca Kimbel for public access television. I think you'll have fun with it. It talks about my new book that's going to be finished in a few months. It also talks about my existing book, Mañana Doesn't Mean Tomorrow. The interview actually deals with a piece I wrote for the Mazatlan Messenger about being drawn to the ocean. I think you'll enjoy it. We go over a couple of aspects of what I wrote. Of course, the actual column has got a lot more going on, and you can go to the Mazatlan Messenger and find that and read the whole column if you want to. Enjoy.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Rebecca.
I'm glad to have you back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Dave, you are a writer. You've written one book. You're working on a second book. You write a lot of articles. And you also have a site on the internet where people can read your articles. Tell us a little bit about that so that our audience knows just who you are.
Yeah, I wrote my first book, Mañana Doesn't Mean Tomorrow, and that's available at Amazon, and you can Google that and it shows up on Amazon. And I write pieces for the Mazatlan Messenger. It's an online newspaper that's published, and it's all about Mazatlan news, Mexico news, and world news. And so twice a month I do a piece in the Mazatlan Messenger that usually has to do with something about Mexico, not always. And you can just go to mazatlanmessenger.com and you can see the pieces.
I want everybody to know that you are a writer. You've been a writer for a long time, and we actually decided to do these shows because you really write some great stuff.
Well, thanks. And the next book that's going to be ready in maybe a month or two is going to be a collection of short stories. All true stories, and all of those mostly are going to be about craziness in Mexico.
The thing I love about your writing is it is so thought-provoking. It's really thought-provoking, and so that is cool. It's really good, I think. Today, we're going to go into your love of the ocean and why so many of us are absolutely crazy about the ocean. So come on, Dave, you wrote an article on it. It was highly educational, and when I read it, I thought,
It's fascinating.
wow.
The ocean is one of the most powerful forces on the planet, if not the most powerful force on the planet. But yet it's fluid, and it's moving. And it's just, for a lot of us, it's just mesmerizing. And I went sailing. I bought a sailboat and I took it to Mexico several years ago. But before that, I used to go to the coast all the time. I lived an hour from the coast, and we used to cut school and drive to the coast, and spend the day, just hanging out and being near the water. And living in Mazatlan, I was obviously very near the Sea of Cortez or the Pacific Ocean or whatever you want to call it. People swim in it, they sail on it, they build houses right next to it that they know are at risk of being swept away, and yet no matter what the danger we perceive, a lot of people just want to be there. I mean, we spend $5 million to have a house on the ocean. When half a mile away it'd be, a third of that. Driving down the Malecon one day in Mazatlan, I mentioned in this piece, if I had to go north or south in Mazatlan to do any errands or whatever, I would always drive the long way. If there was a shortcut through town or something, I never took that because I always wanted to drive along the Malecon, along the ocean. It's just fabulous, the waves are breaking, the salt and the iodine air is coming over your face and the windshield and in the car if there's no top on it, which I didn't have. And so I got to thinking about it. What is it that draws me and other people to the ocean? And so that's when I did some homework and started doing this research about, what's in the ocean. And then my fascination with the ocean, others' fascination with the ocean, led me to seawater, obviously. And so I began to research, what is it about seawater? And then I discovered that primitive seawater is much like our fluid in our body. We are 85 to 95% water. And evidently primitive seawater that's not polluted like it is now is almost identical in its ionic balance to all of the fluid in our body. There's all this cellular fluid that surrounds all of our cells, and seawater is almost identical. And I discovered through some research that there was a French scientist who could actually get human cells to live indefinitely in seawater, but in no other substance, in no other solution would they survive but seawater. And I found that to be just totally fascinating. And so human cells and other cells can actually live isolated from their host in seawater indefinitely. That to me was just this fascinating. And then there's this part that in further research where René Quinton, I think is his name, a French scientist in, I think, 1935 or something, discovered the same thing and actually built some clinics around seawater treatments. And they still do that today in some places in the world. They treat illness with pristine, unpolluted seawater. They have to go to certain parts of the planet to find this water. And evidently it's a very restorative, healthful process. And this particular French biologist just took a dog and drained all of the blood out of a dog and replaced it with seawater that had changed the ionic balance to make it like primitive seawater. And they literally replaced the dog's blood with seawater. And it's all documented. And within, I think, 2 days, half of the blood content had returned in the dog's circulatory system. And then within, I think, 4 or 5 or 6 days or a week, all the blood had replaced itself. So it's like almost a transmutation where the blood had regenerated itself using seawater. And the dog lived for years and years after that, healthy, happily. It was a long way to explain how we are so drawn to the ocean. How can we not be? The sea's in my veins. I mean, there's that whole concept about the sea is in my veins. And literally, it's in my veins. It's not just a figure. What it means in this piece is, for me, being a sailor. I've sailed on the ocean. I took my boat from from California to Mazatlan, and the experience of being on the water and being on this most powerful force on the planet, on the horizon, if you will, on this cutting edge in ancient technology between the ocean and the atmosphere, the wind. The wind is a huge, powerful force on the planet. And so as a sailor, you get to be out there literally between these two most powerful forces on the planet to use the energy of those two immense forces to propel yourself to go where you want to go. And so the next thing that came about in my research, God, I love the computer, I love the internet, and I love Google, and it's so easy to get all this great information. And then there was this whole concept about the ocean is everything that is in the stars, and everything that is in the galaxies is in the ocean, all of the elements. And somebody wrote in this research that if you understand seawater, and you understand salt, and magnetism, you understand life. And then, of course, life meaning, beyond, infinity. And so there's all there, and of course there's a philosophy that we are made of stars. Every element in our body can be found in every place in space that we know of. We're carbon units or whatever. And so when you connect the idea that everything in the stars is also everything in the ocean, it's all made of the same stuff, and seawater is much like what we are, and it's the same thing in this primitive, unpolluted state as what surrounds our cells, and it's basically akin to our cellular fluid. Then, for me, it brings it full circle in that the ocean then maybe represents my earthly way to connect with infinity. and the cosmos and what we're all made of.
It's us in a way.
Sure, sure.
It's us, and that sounds corny, but
Well, it does sound corny, yeah. Well, and I think there's another school of thought, and there are philosophies that basically say that we are the stuff of stars, and more people are talking about that now and writing lyrics about it and all those kinds of things. But if you think about we are the stuff of stars, and then to further that philosophy, there is this idea that we all want to go home, you know, and that we are the stuff of stars that existed 5 billion years ago or something, and that we have this draw, and maybe that's why we want to go to space too. I don't know, but again, once again, what I find fascinating is that, you know, if I somehow have this genetic, you know, compulsion to go quote home, which is into the stars, you know, where my origins are, then it makes total sense to me that I'm fascinated with the ocean, because that's just simply an earthly conduit for that desire.
When you were sailing, were you actually living on your boat?
Oh, sure, absolutely, yeah. I bought the boat in the Delta near Sacramento, California, and spent 6 months on it, fixing it, getting it ready to go. It was a 35-year-old wooden boat when I bought it, and it definitely needed some help. It had been to Mexico, though, but it had been a while, and it definitely needed help. I mean, I spent about 6 months really learning how to work on boats and doing a lot of work, and then took it to Mexico to get in the sailing charter business, and I lived on it for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months in the harbor also in Mazatlan.
What was the name of your boat?
The Cosas Buenas, which means good stuff.
I bet it was good stuff. After all the work you put into it.
It was great. It was fun, and it was a great, and you know, boats are, I think, I mean, this was a wooden boat, glass over wood, so it wasn't a Tupperware plastic boat. I mean, I like fiberglass, but you know, it's kind of it's almost like a living, breathing thing. I mean, you know, wooden boats are, you know, really interesting. They move, and they're all different. But it was a great experience, absolutely. And I thought I was going to die out there a few times, and made some stupid decisions and got in trouble on the ocean. And but I'm here and I made it. You know, so it's all good. And the ocean is still my friend.
Okay, share with us one of your scary stories out there with your love for the ocean.
I was buddy boating down the coast of Baja with another couple, and they knew more about what they were doing than I did. And I, instead of cutting into a 45-degree angle, heading back into the coast of Baja, into Turtle Bay where we were headed, I should have cut southeast into this bay, and I didn't do that. I was just all excited, had a beautiful day of sailing, it was fabulous weather, and I was just enthralled. And so I waited too long to cut into the bay, to cut left or port, you know, or east, going down the coast of Baja, California. And I turned late, and the set, the current and everything is going south. The waves are all going south. The wind is all going south. And so instead of me catching it and just having it help me right under the coast, I turned and everything was broadsiding the boat.
Oh.
So I was in a beam to the sea position, which is not a good thing to do. And it was getting dark, and I had a little bit of time to get to the coast to follow this boat into the bay. And they had a modern boat with radar and all this fancy stuff, and my boat didn't have a lot of that, and so it was kind of sailing by the seat of my pants. And so I spent about 3 hours beamed to the sea, and with these big boarding seas pounding the boat. And the boat would heel way over in the cabin top, the cabin windows would go in the water, and then it would come back, and the wind picked up, and I had to go forward and try to bring the jib sail down. And this lady who was crewing was on the wheel, and she was panicked, and the water kept pounding the boat, and it would just shudder and shake, and boom, you know, and that went on for about 3 hours, and it was extremely scary. I thought the boat may go over. I mean, it was an older boat, and I'd made the repairs. I wasn't real sure about all that. And then finally, just as it got dark, we got into the entrance to the bay, and I was able to follow this fellow in. I was able to follow his masthead lights through this totally blackness into this bay with rocks sticking up and all these kind of things, you know. So it was it was stupid. I mean, that was the first time I'd been offshore, and I did some
So
stupid
I bet
things.
your crewmate didn't go out with you anymore, huh? Or did she?
No, she was never the same. Yeah. Well, she told me that I've sailed with my brother, you know, and all this, and I thought, oh, okay, you know what you're doing, that's fine. But it was tough, it was scary, and she committed to go all the way to Mazatlan. We had to stop and repair the boat in Cabo San Lucas, and I had to do the repairs because the other guys were the Mexican guys and the gringo, busy, you know. And it took a week there, and she hung out at the Hacienda Hotel by the pool for a week, and I worked on the boat, and she lasted about another 5 days in Mazatlan and just said, I'm out of here. But
And she just wasn't as addicted to adventure.
no. And I can't blame her. I mean, hey, it was a scary, scary time. So the ocean. I mean, I just keep coming back to the ocean, and I think to myself, what people go to the ocean. I mean, and think about other things. I mean, we know the ocean is dangerous, yet we go there and we swim in it, and you know, sneaker waves take people into oblivion, and we know that, but we still go out there.
Right.
And we build houses next to it, and we sail on it, and we scuba dive in it, and we know it's dangerous,
Right.
and it can kill us. Now, anything else that we knew that was that dangerous, we would stay away from it, wouldn't we? I mean, it's like, gee, I know that I know that lions and tigers are dangerous, so I'm not going to go like hang out with them all the time, you know, just because I want to. I mean, we know about certain things that are dangerous, and we stay away from them. And we know the ocean is really dangerous, but we keep going back to it. Is that crazy or what?
It's a great magnet.
Yeah. So that's like I said, that's what got me thinking about it. Why do we keep going back when we know it's dangerous?
Because our blood
Yeah.
is the ocean.
Yeah.
Close enough, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You have written a lot of articles as a result of your experiences on your boat and with the ocean and with Mazatlan, and they're really good reading. So I want to thank you for that. They're a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks. Well, hey, they're all going to be, or a lot of them are going to be in the next book, so
We'll look forward to
soon.
that. Look forward to that. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Glad you
Thank
came.
you, Rebecca.